editorial bad influence, our star guests Rhino and Vogue will be trying out some of the hottest arcade conversions, including Virtual Cop, complete with a new gun attachment.
We've got a great build-yourself-a-world kit. For the PC, I think I'd be better off in there.
Firing at Rhino was not a wise move, Andy. Our main review is Earthworm Jim 2 on the SNES.
And Violet Berlin gets her hands on a £7 million flight simulator. Careful, Violet! I'm not playing these rough games anymore. Good games for the Saturn have been a bit thin on the ground, but with Christmas just around the corner, there are 3 coin-op conversions coming out, and this is the first of them, Virtua Cop. The arcade version was a smash hit with its fantastic graphics and slick gameplay. So when the programmers started work on the Saturn version, they tried to copy the original as accurately as possible. They spent months trying to cram in all the sprites and features of the arcade version, and the end result is an almost identical game. You can play on your own, you can team up with a friend and take on the criminals in a fast and furious shoot-'em-up. The 3-dimensional bad guys jump out from behind crates and you pick them off one by one whilst trying to avoid tagging any of the hostages. Vogue's been blasting her way through it for us. You like this, don't you?
I've got used to this one now. It's pretty cool.
Good, isn't it? How do you reload your gun?
You have to reload it outside of the screen, which is something you have to get used to. It's a bit inconvenient at first, but you actually do get quite used to doing that.
Have you played it in 2-player mode?
I have had a look over with Rhino earlier, and it's quite off-putting with 2 people because you never know who's actually shot anybody. So I prefer playing on my own.
So it's a good game.
It's a very good game.
But it's better in single player.
It certainly is. Oh.
This is the home version of the mega arcade hit Sega Rally. Racers take to muddy forest roads and cross-country courses with a choice of 2 different cars. They both handle well, but players must master both vehicles to take the championship. What sets it apart from any other racing game is the speed at which the backgrounds move and the detail of the courses. So how are you doing, Ryan?
Well, I'm just getting into it now. Sega Rally's brilliant, out of this world. The realism of it is just brilliant. But of course, the steering wheel is harder to control than the joypad.
Now tell me about these 2 different cars you've got.
Well, you've got the Celica and you've got the Delta. The Celica is a bit faster than the Delta, but the Delta sticks to the road a bit easier.
Right, you've got 2 different tracks as well, different textures on the track.
Yeah, you've got mud or tarmac. So you've got to watch out for the power slide. It's tricky.
So you find it easy to get a grip on them, this game?
Oh, I'm getting there. Need a bit more practice, though.
The last game in this collection is this one, Virtua Fighter 2. The new beat-em-up is a massive advance over the first Virtua Fighter with new characters and new special moves. But the biggest improvement is in the graphics. The characters and backgrounds are now incredibly detailed. Some of the fighters even have moving fingers. The animation's very smooth. It's as fast as a gladiator up a pole. And now, for the first time in Gladiator history, a mixed match. Vogue versus Rhino on Virtua Fighter 2. Vogue's playing Jeffrey. Oh no, Vogue's playing Jackie and Rhino's playing Jeffrey. Are you a beat-em-up fan, Vogue?
Well, I'm trying my best. I mean, this is the only chance I get to get my own back on someone that's Rhino's size.
You're quite good at this, Rhino. Do you play him a lot?
Oh, yeah, I like Jeffrey. Jeffrey's powerful.
Straight away. And great replays. It's all over. In the first mixed gladiator match in history, I declare that Rhino is the winner.
Woo.
One of the funniest game releases of last year was Earthworm Jim. Each level was full of zany antics and quirky challenges. And this week, the cybernetic-suited worm returns to the Mega Drive and SNES in Earthworm Jim 2. It's full of the same kind of humour with killer cats, terrifying termites and flying octopuses. There's 10 challenging worlds and littering the landscape is a multitude of new high-tech weapons. Oh, and watch out for the falling grannies, Pete's puppies and pink pigs. But a different joke's enough to make this game another worthy winner for the worm. Here's Sahel with the SNES version.
I couldn't see how they could improve on Earthworm Jim, but somehow they have. This is even better than the first game. Like the original, this game looks really good, but there's lots of fresh ideas, like here, for example, on the Lorenzen soil level, where they actually allow you to dig your way through the soil and create your own pathway using a dentist's drill. Jim's got some new moves in this game as well, like a snot swing and a parachute. There's the added pressure of running the whole level against the clock. You've only got 90 seconds to complete it. And here there's some really weird enemies like termites and maggots. Here you have to shoot the soil above it to cover up the hole so they can't come out and attack you with killer babies. Here Jim's disguised as a blind salamander for the obligatory swimming level. But it's got a twist in that there's a game show you have to compete in when you get to the end. The questions are really weird, but it doesn't matter what answer you give because it sends you through to the next level anyway. On this level, you've got a different viewpoint, and as well as avoiding the flying pigs and the cannonballs the ships fire at you, your task is to push that bomb attached to the balloon to the end of the level. There are some rockets to help you along the way, which you can hitch a ride with to make yourself go faster. And if you go too far, there are some rockets which take you back in the other direction. Earthworm Jim 2 is one of the zaniest games of '95. It's an essential purchase for Christmas.
It's mind-blowingly funny. It kept me in stitches. It's the best sequel I've ever seen.
I'm not usually a fan of platform games, but this is excellent. It's very imaginative.
And the scores for Earthworm Jim 2. It's a strong contender for the Christmas #1 with 5s all round.
Like the outfit? Pretty cool, huh? I've been lent it by leading air crewman Rob McKee, who's also asked me to take part in a naval training exercise. Thanks, Rob.
That's okay.
Ah, no!
Falmouth Coast Guard, Rescue 193. Description apparently she's got a wetsuit on and she fell off a surfboard. Roger.
I'm going to be rescued by 771 Squadron, a Royal Navy search and rescue helicopter based at Culdrose in Cornwall.
I got a visual.
Exercises like this are important, but they're only part of crew training. Pilots have to learn to fly in a variety of different weather conditions, because in a real rescue, they might have to go out in high winds, rain or fog. But unfortunately, you can't control the weather to fit in with your training exercise.
Easy, easy, steady.
The Navy also needs to push crews to the limit to see if they make a mistake. But you can't do that out here, because when you're flying just 50 feet above the sea, a mistake can be fatal. Of course, pilots will tell you there's no substitute for flying. To train properly, you have to experience every movement of the machine, every twist and turn in the landscape. So, if you want to train safely on the ground, you have to make pilots believe they're in the air. You need a multi-million-pound Contric, a Sea King helicopter flight simulator.
So, Steve, how realistic is it?
It's very realistic. As you can see, it's a real cockpit, real controls, real instruments. It's a real Sea King cockpit you're sitting in now, and it feels very much like the real aircraft when we go flying.
OK, let's take her up.
OK, fine.
The trick works because all your senses are deceived. They even play engine noise over the loudspeakers. All the cockpit controls respond identically to those in a Sea King, and all the instruments give accurate readings. The legs make the cockpit move as the helicopter turns and banks. But what really makes you feel you're in flight is the view from the window.
The graphic landscapes are real places. This is the coast of Cornwall, and I was picked up by the real helicopter in the training exercise right out there.
The landscape also looks as though it disappears into the distance, and like any good Contric, it's all done with mirrors. The image is back projected onto this screen, which is above the cockpit. In front of us is a curved mirror, and we're looking at a reflection of the screen above our heads. So, our eyes are actually focusing into the distance. A simple but very effective illusion.
Now, if you were to do some more spectacular manoeuvres, the computer wouldn't be able to keep up, would it? It would be all jerky, all the graphics.
Watch this, it can.
Wow!
The legs are hydraulic rams. When the pilot starts a manoeuvre, they jump sharply, but then automatically creep back to a central position. Inside, you don't notice the readjustment, and as soon as the legs are back in the centre position, they're ready to move off on the next stomach-churning turn.
I feel sick.
Of course, the simulator's much too valuable to let anyone have a go, but I told them I'd put in a few hours on Wing Commander 3.
Now it's my turn. Here's my mission. This has got to be the most expensive video game I've ever played.
Now that's the oil platform I'm supposed to land on.
That's it, just the left-hand side. See the two masts? You want to go to the left-hand mast. We're going a little bit fast, so just pull back with your right hand. Very gently.
Yeah, okay.
A little bit left. Up,
up.
Raise your hand just a little bit. That's enough, that's enough.
Okay, left hand.
Down.
Violet Berlin flying like she drives.
Apparently, the helicopter crew were winding Violet up before they wound her up. They were telling her there was a shark alert, and if she saw one, she should bop it on the nose. She's so gullible.
But now it's time for this week's news and previews.
One of the best-looking new PlayStation shoot-'em-ups is an update of the coin-op classic Commando. In Lone Soldier, you play a fearless, muscle-bound mercenary who must fight his way through an entire army in order to kill a corrupt dictator. The game features a variety of missions set in spectacular 3D landscapes and lots of wanton destruction. Lone Soldier will be out next month.
The classic Amiga shoot-'em-up Z-Wolf has spawned a sequel. Z-Wolf 2 Wild Justice places you again in control of a futuristic helicopter with orders to wipe out the nasty Ecliptico Corporation. There are 4 new vehicles to control, varied missions to accomplish, and an open 3D game environment to explore and destroy at leisure. Z-Wolf 2 is compatible with all Amigas with 1 meg or above, and it will be out soon.
There are lots of pinball games around at the moment, and one of the most realistic is Pro Pinball. Although it has only 1 table, it's possibly the most accurate simulation yet, with a fully featured play area, some stunning 3D graphics, and an authentic-looking scoreboard. Pro Pinball will be out on PC CD-ROM at the end of this month, with a PlayStation version to follow.
And now for some more of this week's games releases, reviewed by our expert panel. Super Skid Marks is not what you think. It's a multiplayer racing game for the Mega Drive. Your car skid and slide around 24 different tracks, making delicate control a must. Although your competitors' vehicles always look the same, you can choose to race in 6 different cars, from humble minis and monster trucks to a Formula 1 racer. But driving the cows is utter madness. Here's Lisa.
This is a cross between Micro Machines and Off-Road Racer, and I love both those games, but somehow it's not quite as good. You can choose to play on your own against the computer cars or against 3 friends in a 4-way split screen, but it's really difficult to see what's going on. A great tactic is to bash into cars and knock them out of the way. It takes a while to master the handling of the car. You have to skid round the track rather than drive. Even with the addition of amusing vehicles like the cows, there's still nothing special about the gameplay.
Even though the graphics are very basic, it's still a real laugh, especially in multiplayer mode.
I found this game really annoying because if you make one mistake, there's no way of catching up again.
And the scores for Super Skid Marks, an average 3 from the boys, a hard-to-control 2 from the girls.
Warhawk is a futuristic flight simulator for the PlayStation, but don't panic, the emphasis is on fast arcade action rather than boring realism. In your high-tech aircraft, you must destroy tanks, planes and gun emplacements before launching an assault on the statutory end-of-level fortress. Here's Adam.
This is a new style of game for the PlayStation, and it's fast and full of action. The objectives of the game are to kill virtually everything in sight and collect a preset number of canisters of red mercury, which you'll find at the end of each level. You get a range of weapons to attack the enemy with, such as rockets, swarmers and plasma cannons, but those enemies in the air are much harder hit than those on the ground. You get a variety of views, such as looking out the windows and external views, which do actually help you play the game and don't get in the way. This is a good shoot-'em-up, but it is hard and could get very frustrating.
This is a fairly exciting game with some great explosions, but it is quite difficult and it could take some time to master.
The missions are a challenge and there's loads to shoot at, but the gameplay is very average.
And the scores for Warhawk, well, because of the very samey gameplay, it's only 3s. I think it's safe. All these scenes were computer-generated, of course, but interestingly not on a supercomputer, on an ordinary PC like this, using a really inexpensive bit of software called Simply 3D. It comes with 2 CDs packed full of pre-designed scenes like this one, but you can customise and alter them really easily. For example, if I wanted to move the street lamp a little bit nearer the end of the balcony so I can have some light to work by, dead easy. In the bottom left-hand corner are all the objects that are in this scene. Look, there's the benches and all the other bits and pieces. Down at the bottom here is the street lamp. So I click on the street lamp. What the computer has done there is turn the picture into a wireframe model. That's because it's easier for it to do the necessary calculations when you move things if the picture is in a wireframe version. Moving it couldn't be simpler. Click on the left-right icon at the top here and just drag the street lamp to the left. Now, obviously, in doing so, it's ended up a little bit above the balcony here, so I'll click on up-down and just move it a little bit further down. It's as simple as that. There are other objects as well that you can move into the scene. This knight, for example, is made up of all these different objects. Let's take the knight and put a wireframe version of him into the scene we're working on. And there he is. Now we can move him in the same way as we moved the street lamp earlier on. I'll just put him over here to protect me from marauding gladiators. Now we have to re-render the picture, which takes a bit of time, so while the computer's thinking about it, here's some scenes I did earlier on. There's a Jurassic scene here, complete with dinosaurs. And one thing I did discover was that by adding shadows, the resulting picture looks much more realistic. For example, here's a picture without shadows. Now look at the difference when I've added the shadow. Once you're happy with your scene, the best thing is you can program a virtual camera to fly around it. And here we are back in my finished scene. Oi, Sir Galahad, you haven't seen any gladiators hanging around, have you?
I think you'll be safe now, Andy. With Christmas coming, it might be easier to persuade your parents to buy you a computer than a console because there's lots of educational software around. But a console is much cheaper and easier to use. It's Virtual Violet with the pros and cons of each.
In the red corner, the undisputed number-crunching heavyweight champion of the world, the computer. In the blue corner, weighing in with a significantly lighter price, the inflexible but absolutely dedicated games console. Keep it clean. In the battle of the formats, the PC seems to be striking the most blows at the moment. Despite the new consoles, top forthcoming games, like Heart of Darkness, do seem to be getting a lot of attention. And of course, if you need to be really hip, you've got to get yourself connected to the net. And you need a computer for that, don't you? Well, actually, the consoles are punching back. There's already some kit that allows CDI owners to hook up to the net straight from their joypads. Soon the Saturn's going online, and the PlayStation will certainly follow suit. So, in a year's time, we could be surfing the web straight from our TVs. But not while Bad Influence is on, all right? Just imagine, when your Saturn is hooked up to the net, you could be visiting the Daytona site and playing against other people over the modem. But isn't it going to be a little awkward hooking up to the net with a joypad? They're made for games, not email. Don't you worry, the consoles are having keyboards designed for them. But as well as a keyboard, won't you need something like a hard disk to store all the stuff you've downloaded? And a mouse will be handy. The fact is that the souped-up super consoles of tomorrow will end up looking more like multimedia PCs. In the battle of the formats, we could be heading for a split decision. Sorry.
Virtual Violet, or perhaps in those shorts it should be Virtual Violent. This week's competition prize is absolutely fantastic. It's a Saturn with 46 games, some available now and some to follow when they're released after Christmas. The question is, how many moons has the planet Saturn got? Is it A, 2, B, 8 or C, 17? Phone in your answers on 0891 800 300. That's 0891 800 300. Calls cost no more than 25 pence each. Lines close at midnight on Sunday, and most important of all, make sure you get permission from the person who pays the phone bill. And remember, we always check to make sure you have.
Last week's competition prize was a Mega Drive with a copy of Vector Man, and we asked you, what breed were these puppies we had in the studio? Well, they were golden retrievers, and if this is your name on the screen, you're our winner. Congratulations.
10 runners up get Bad Influence, Bad Crew t-shirts, and their names are running across the screen now. Join us next week for our Christmas special when we'll be looking at all the juicy stuff you might get in your stocking on Christmas morning.
We're going to change into our gladiator costumes now, aren't we? Oh, yes. For the Eliminator, I'm going to be Hippo, and Sonia's going to be Vague. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye.